Hello, America. Today the Patriot wants to talk to you about the national debt. Why? I'm going to take an angle that most people haven't really considered or that I haven't heard on the news. Our national debt is approaching $20 trillion. I'm not even talking the unfunded liabilities. Let's just talk the actual measurable national debt. When Obama was running for office, he talked about Bush being unpatriotic for adding $3 or $4 trillion to the debt. Obama's doubled it himself. He doesn't say he's unpatriotic about that. It's called hypocrisy, but that's another issue. Let's look at what the implications of that are. Now, right now, interest rates are minimal. The Fed is artificially holding them down. And when you artificially hold something where it's not supposed to be, what happens? Pressure builds up. Over time, you can't do it. Over time, it gets more and more difficult. And when it pops, if you did it for too long, it's going to explode. Let's look at the long-term average interest rate for this country. About 5%. I remember when Carter was president, that's when I had my graduate school loans. Guess what? They were at 12.5%. School loans, people. The kids are bitching now that they might go from 3% government guaranteed school loans to 4 or 5. I paid 12.5% under the days of Carter. I know Carter now is thrilled with Obama's president because he can finally say he's no longer the worst president in history. Again, sidetracking. Let's get back to the story. President Obama has doubled our debt. We're at $20 trillion. What is 5% of $20 trillion? Very simple. $1 trillion. Why is that important? That's what we are going to have to pay on the average when interest rates get back to normal, which could happen at any time and in the long run will happen every year until this debt's paid off. What could we do with an extra $1 trillion a year? Think about that. Every issue that we cannot address, every person we cannot help, every cause we cannot solve because we don't have that money is on the heads of the people who created the debt. Enough said about who did that. Let's say we argue about kids starving in America. That's a biggie. We see these ads all the time. 1 in 5 children in America are starving. I don't buy that. A lot of kids are. 1 in 5, I don't buy that. Regardless, there are a lot of kids that aren't starving but don't have the proper amount of food and nutrients every day that they should have based on medical recommendations. Okay, I'll buy that. I don't get the proper nutrients based on medical recommendations. Obviously, I'm not starving. Take my multi-horse pill vitamins every day. Hopefully that'll account for it. But anyway, let's say one of our goals is to eliminate children in America from going hungry. We could take a small part of that extra $1 trillion a year, wipe that out. Boom. Done. What else could we do? Here's a thought. California has been going through a drought for years. You know what California has an awful lot of? Coastline. And what do you get at the coastline? Water. There's a whole ocean full of water out there. Pretty sure. Oh, well, that's salt water. You can't drink that. Sure you can, if you desalinate it. What does that mean? Taking the salt out. Around the world, in many places they have desalination plants, which take water. It's like a distillation process like you do when you're creating alcohol. Boil it out, separate the salt, condense it, you have water. Fresh water. What do you think nature does? Where do you think storms come from? The water evaporates over the ocean, forms clouds, rolls in, rains on us, fresh water. Boom. We can do factories that do the same exact thing. Imagine if we just took for 1 or 2 years, forget in perpetuity, take a chunk of that $1 trillion a year, build a string of desalination plants down the Californian coast. Design them to refill reservoirs on a constant 24/7, 12-month out of the year basis. How do you think that would work, people? That would be tremendous. It would help our economy out so much. It would help the lives of American people out so much. It would do tremendous good. And we could have done that easily if we didn't have to pay all this friggin' money out forever on the national debt. The interest burden on this debt is going to cripple us. Because guess what? It's not getting any better. It's only going to get worse. We are paying so much that we can't afford to pay down the debt. They keep saying we're reducing the debt. No, they're never reducing the deficit. They're reducing the rate of increase, but every single year it goes up. Every one of the 8 years under Obama, it has gone up tremendously. It has averaged almost $1 trillion a year. That's horrible. That is going to bankrupt our children and our grandchildren. We're going to put them in poverty. Is that fair? No. Is that right? No. What we should be doing is spending responsibly. That's where you got to vote Republican if you want that to happen. Because Democrats are running us into debt that will annihilate us in the long run. If we could actually cut that debt down, we should set a goal for the deficit that we actually cut, which means it gets lower, not today's definition of cut where it goes up. Let's take the interest debt burden off these savings and designate it for certain programs. Do you think that would get a little more interest? If we can cut the debt, let's take the money and put it into a child anti-hunger program, or a desalination program for California, or country, states along the eastern coast, or feed that water into the rest of the country. There's so many things you can do, so many charities, so many causes, so many ways we could use that money wisely. But most of it goes to, guess who? China. They buy our bonds, they're collecting the interest payments, we have to pay the interest, they're sucking us dry. It will happen in time if things don't change. That's my story for today. Think about the debt. It's a lot more important and a lot more dangerous than you realize. We have to elect people who are actually going to bring responsibility to the administration. We have to be smarter than we are now. We have to get our house in order, just like we do on a personal level. If you're spending too much, you got to cut up a couple credit cards. You have to do without, all right? Yeah, it's great to go out to restaurants, but if you're in debt, it's stupid to pay 18% on a credit card because you want to keep going to a fancy restaurant. Eat some mac and cheese at home, people. Use the money you would have gone out with, pay down your debt, save all that interest, get debt-free, and then when you have surplus, go out to the nice restaurants. That's personal responsibility. That is my point of view. And with that, see you later, America.